So many people are thinking about people, South Africans that are stuck abroad, and I'm going to do that story. I've got some people that were and are stuck abroad because airlines are still not operating. And there's another side to it. I never thought of South Africans that went to go live abroad, maybe came home and then got stuck here. Abdu-Raof, that seems to have happened to you. A rather interesting one because we know each other. I know we work together. Then you moved to Doha in Qatar, working there all the time. But then I see during lockdown you were here. And I'm like, what on earth is going on?
Faizal, yes, of course. South Africa as an expatriate would always be home. So my situation's a little bit different to most other expatriates living and working abroad, in the sense that my business is still in South Africa. So my story started very calmly, but ended up with how do I put it? In the most depressing way possible. So on the 16th of March last month, I flew into Cape Town to come and conclude some business. And I was supposed to be here only for 1 to 2 days. So I came in on the Monday, the 16th, and was supposed to fly out on the Tuesday, the 17th again. And the reason for my quick visit was Qatar had indicated on the 15th of March that on the 18th, they would be locking down the city, meaning that all airports would be closed and people would have to go into their homes in lockdown. So my intention was fly into Cape Town for urgent business and fly out before the lockdown kicks in on the 18th. Unfortunately, on arrival in Cape Town on the 16th of March, I dreadfully heard that Qatar had decided to go into immediate lockdown, and that was on the evening of the 16th. And that would be for 14 days, which meant that I could not fly back to Hamad International Airport in Doha because
I just want to stop you there.
Had been closed.
I want to stop you there for a moment. I just want to make sure that we understand this properly. Right? Okay, so it's before the lockdown started in South Africa, the one in Qatar started.
Yeah.
And it was at that point that you couldn't enter. So that means the lockdown meant that they weren't allowing people that were now staying there to even return. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's right. Look, South Africa's airports were open at that time. On the 16th and the 17th, South Africa's airports were open. I could fly out. However, a few South Africans did fly out on the 16th and on the 17th, in fact. And on arrival in Doha, were turned around at the airport and told to go back home.
Really?
So that's how strict. That's how strict they were in Doha. So it was a plane full of people that were turned around at the airport and told, "Look, find yourselves a ticket and return back to your home country." And unfortunately, that's the situation that we found ourselves in. So Qatar had gone into that lockdown, which means I couldn't return. It was bad news, but it was for 14 days. Qatar said they were only planning to impose this strict lockdown for only 14 days.
And at that time, South Africa had not announced the lockdown as yet.
They had not spoken about the lockdown. South Africa had not spoken about the lockdown. That was the Monday. Come the Tuesday morning, South Africa starts speaking on the lines of, and being in the media, we have our ear very closely to the ground. And we heard South Africa speaking about this 21-day lockdown possibly going to be imposed the following Thursday. And so eventually comes Thursday and South Africa goes into lockdown, which means that all international flights are restricted, which means that even if Qatar lifted their restriction, I still wouldn't be able to travel because now South Africa was also in lockdown and restricted air traffic.
So you were kind of
So for that,
I watched this movie some time ago. I can't remember what the name was, Terminal or something like that, where this guy goes and he gets stuck in this airport and he's like in no man's land because when you're in international ground, he's not sure whether he can leave or whatever. And you remind me of this guy.
That would have been me had I returned to Qatar.
Exactly.
Because I'm sure I wouldn't have a return ticket. I would have been stuck on the airport on that side until I got the
I would
return
have said,
ticket.
send me a location.
So,
I would have seen you still been sitting at the airport somewhere. but it would have been hectic, Abdu-Raof. But now, so
on the flip side of that, Faizal, if I can just add to that, on the day that South Africa went into lockdown, there were South Africans that were already had gone through the passport control in Doha and were on the other side of the airport ready to board the plane when the lockdown was imposed. Those people were stuck at the airport because South Africa wouldn't allow the Qatar Airways plane to land in South Africa. So the flight was cancelled, and they were stuck for 7 days on the airport, basically on the check-out side. And the South African ambassador had to basically intervene in order to get them back to South Africa.
Look, they could have landed on some field somewhere and just jumped out. I mean, that was the only other way to do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So now, okay, so now realization set in. Obviously, you are probably on the phone all the time, phoning the wife and the children, listen, this, that, and the other. Because I have a small sense of it. Because if you remember, I was out of town just before you came in. I think I might have contacted you when I was in Jordan, I think. And so I went to Egypt, Jordan, where did I go? Egypt, Jordan, and then Turkey. And in that time, we started shifting around, but we saw these travel dynamic shifts around the world. So we started anticipating nonsense. And with all of that, you have your travel agent on the phone, you have everybody, no, let's fly there, wait, don't go back there, go here. So there's all of this on the phone all the time, and all this maneuvers going on. And I can only imagine that you started all of that, and then when did reality set in?
Well, my business is very closely affiliated to the Department of International Relations and Cooperation here in South Africa, DIRCO, as well as the South African Embassy in Qatar. So my business does a lot of work for the embassy in Doha, and reality didn't set in very, very quickly because I still thought, I have the contact with the embassy. It shouldn't be much issue for them to exit me out of South Africa into Doha. It was only after I spoke to the ambassador in Doha that I realized I'm stuck here. There's no way I will be able to leave South Africa until any type of travel ban or restriction is lifted in South Africa. Now, you must remember my situation is on a double-sided sword. Because firstly, I have to get out permission to leave South Africa, and then secondly, I have to get permission to enter Qatar. And the third step of this is that there's currently no flights between South Africa and Qatar at the moment. So from today, in fact, there is a flight coming in, repatriating South African citizens from all over the world, a Qatar Airways flight that's landing here. And I was hoping that on the repatriation return flights, I could maybe jump on a plane and head off back to Qatar. But unfortunately, the South African law is very strict on the restriction and the lockdown that they've imposed. And I mean, it's understood where they're standing. They are looking to curb this in the most harshest of ways. Unfortunately, that implementation of those strict rules, it's heavily impeding on many South Africans who are stuck a year that's looking to go back. I mean, there's
but Abdu-Raof, you're in a strategic position. You're in a strategic position because I know that you do have a property back home still. I mean, you moved to Doha and Qatar some time ago. I'm not sure how long are you gone now.
This is my third year.
Okay, and I know that you have a property here and a home here, and you have people around you because I mean, the rest of the family is here, your mom is here, and all of that.
Yeah.
So you're okay from that point of view, from a facilitative, I got a roof over my head perspective. I wouldn't be able to think what would have happened to you if you were just traveling in, and I mean, hotels are closed. Things are just a bit, I mean, even us as South Africans living here right now can feel that pinch
Yeah.
and all of that. So that would have been worse for someone coming in that didn't have the facilities that you do. However, the one thing that is not always facilitated for or catered for is being away from your girls and being away from your wife. And how many days is it now before I ask you how that's going?
Well,
I know you got a
you
chart probably on the
know,
wall, or you're probably doing what they did in the castle many years ago when they were locked in the castle. They were
five steps.
scratching on the walls.
Yeah.
Yes, those are 5 days at a time. So
Yeah. Uh, I'm into my seventh week, put it that way. I've
seventh
been
week.
away for 7 weeks. It's the longest time I've ever been away from my girls, unfortunately. Um,
Now be
they
honest now.
are,
Be honest. I want to ask you something. And your wife, I
yeah,
know she's watching the show right now. Did she ever say,
yeah.
"I'm so sick and tired of you. You might as well just stay away"? And there, her prayer got accepted.
I think that wish came true. Yes, and that has been said. So, however, on the flip side of that, I have to give her dues. There's a lot of tears at the moment
I can imagine.
because it's been a while. Look, my situation is, in the sense, is that I have two, as you know, Faizal, I have two very small girls. I have a 10-year-old and 11-year-old who's totally dependent on their dad for everything, and their mom. And their mom is a healthcare professional who works in the state hospital in Doha. She's in the thick of things on that side, and as we can see, the numbers in Qatar are not low. The numbers have actually risen quite drastically due to the undertaking by the government to have gone out and tested wildly to try and contain the virus. So, I mean, they're sitting on, for a small population of 3 million, they're sitting on close to 16,000 infections in Doha, more than double than what South Africa has currently. So my concern is on two levels. Firstly, the kids don't have the support that they used to. And number two, my wife is in a position where she ultimately requires that support at the moment because she's working with the infected people every single day, trying to get through that without any support at home. So, and it being the month of Ramadan, so it's not an easy time for them in Doha. I do understand, and you know, from my perspective, that's the saddest part about it.
But how are you dealing with that? That's the question. Are you feeling like you're in an emotional ball about this, or have you come to terms with the fact that you just subjected yourself to the forces of environment right now?
You know, in the beginning it was very frustrating because, as you know, I'm used to getting my way with everything. So if we get stuck somewhere, we always find a way to move around the situation. We've always had the facility in order to be able to do that. However, in this situation, it doesn't matter what you have. There's nothing you can do. The mere frustration of that, as I think that is the most depressing part on my side. For the mere reason that no matter what I do, I can't get back. So that is the sad reality that I've lived. I've come to terms with it now that I just have to accept. However, it is still difficult. It's day by day by day. So currently I have isolated myself from family, friends, everyone, because just in the event, in case I manage to get onto a flight tomorrow and fly out with permission from both DIRCO, Touchwood, with the permission of both DIRCO and the Qatari government, and managing to get a flight out to Qatar, that at least I've been in isolation, and there's no chance of infection or anything of that sort on arrival in Doha. So I have isolated myself, and which is a bit difficult at this stage. I'm not the domestic type of person. I'm not the person that can cook. I'm not a person that can do cleaning or anything like that. And unfortunately, we can't have domestics around at the moment here in South Africa. So I've had to teach myself how to do many things in the last 7 weeks. And
But
that has
I
been a
wanna
challenge.
hold you on that point. I wanna hold you on that point because
Yeah,
that is a discussion that I'm having with many people. I
yeah,
know there's this adaptation that's going on. It's an adapt or die situation,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
However,
yeah.
didn't you find that there's perhaps a deeper appreciation for certain things because of that situation that you find yourself in? And didn't you realize that you maybe have more abilities around you that within yourself that you didn't really think or maybe didn't want to reach out in the past? And the reason I'm asking you this question is because I personally, I mean, as you know, I lost my mother recently, and I've been
Yeah.
trying to work through all of that, trying to work out how to live again. And so I needed to redesign how I live because all I knew was my mother, because I'm not married,
Yeah,
and so and
yeah,
many people know that story. So I needed to work out how to live on my own. And in the end of the day, knowing how to live without a component that was fundamental in your life is a major adjustment. Likewise,
yeah,
you've got your girls around you and you've got your wife, so you are set in a certain way. Now you need to learn to live without them, and it's also there are philosophical warnings in all of that, which I can speak about right now. But what are some of the lessons that you took out of this? Because in everything in life, there's a positive extraction and a negative extraction. There must be a positive extraction out of this.
Indeed, there is, Faisal. I mean, the one thing that this situation has taught me is that not to take things for granted, and nothing is forever. So
Two key
this is the
lessons.
first time in my life. Those are two things. Yeah.
Mm.
So I mean, the one thing in my life is I've been fortunate enough never to struggle to look after myself. I've always had people looking after me. So unfortunately, where I find myself now is fending for myself. So yes, it was difficult before we switched here in South Africa to level 4 because takeaways and restaurants and everything were closed, and I had to learn to fry sausage and steaks
So
and
you
things
weren't following
by
my
myself.
post. You weren't following my post. I went out and made sure that an air fryer was delivered here. Or otherwise, I would have probably been about 30 kilos in weight by now. So,
well, luckily the fast came
mm.
because at least I don't have to see to 3 meals a day to look after myself at the moment. But it's been challenging. I mean, it has taught me to become. I've always been self-sustainable, but not domesticated. So it's taught me a lot about how our wives and our mothers really looked after us and what they had to go through to put something on the table for us. Yeah, it's not, and I must say it's not an easy task. And my wife's going to hold this against me probably for the rest of my life in saying this, that her task is not easy, but it's definitely not an easy task. And but we adapt. The one thing that comes out of this is that small sacrifice that we're making, it's for the greater good. Faisal, I'm sitting in this situation at the moment, and yes, I'm missing my girls. Yes, I need to get back to my business in Doha. Yes, I have things to do. There's urgency in getting back. But at the same time, if one looks at the picture, there's a greater good that's at work here at the moment. I mean, this pandemic is something that not you or I have seen in our lifetimes, not our parents have seen in our lifetimes. Maybe our grandparents saw it in 1918 with the Spanish flu. But nothing of this sort has ever been lived through in modern times. And we understand that if it's not kept under control, that at the end of the day, it's going to be a risk to all of us going forward. And there could be a culling of the population of up to 40% of the world. which ultimately we cannot afford. Economies are one side of the story, but lives are at stake here. And I take my hat off to the South African government, for one, who have stepped up to the plate and said, look, we have a failing economy, but we need to realize and we need to ask ourselves the question, what is more important? Are our citizens' lives more important, or is the economy more important? And they've chosen right. They've chosen right. Because it senses having an economy and having no people to service the economy. And that's where we're sitting at the moment. So in all this, I still maintain that the government, yes, they're doing the right thing. To my detriment, I can't get home. But at the same time, this is not going to go away quickly. And the only time that we can be sure that this will never return is once that vaccine is found and once that's rolled out to the rest of the world. And unfortunately, that we won't see within probably the next year to 2 years. So it's something that the norm has changed. And going forward, the norm will have to change even further
of course.
into the future.
And I think what you're saying is a very fundamental point, and that is that you're bringing up a word which is the only constant in life, and the only constant in life is change. Everything changes, and like I always bring up the aspect of my mother's passing, because it is probably the greatest change in my entire life. Everything I knew before that day remained exactly the same for 42 years. And right after that day, everything I knew had changed. Likewise, with this pandemic, everything we knew before that point would have been a constant, and everything will change, from economy to, I even believe that human behavior will change, the way that we interact in the future with each other. I think that even our social psychology is changing right now in terms of how we were in the past. I mean, you cannot think that if you were back in South Africa right now, I know you would have probably hooked up with me and said, let's go catch a coffee, let's go to a movie or something like that, or found something, because I know you would have come catch up with me because you hadn't seen me since her passing, for example. But no, that didn't happen. And so this means our behavior is going to change going forward. And Abdu-Raof, my take of it all is that I think we were going too fast as human beings. We were just moving. If I asked you what you did last week Tuesday while you were in your normal life, you wouldn't recall because you were just moving way too fast. And I think maybe just God has pressed the stop button for a while to say, can we stop, reflect and understand our purpose in life? And maybe that's the purpose of all of this. That is just my take. As we end off the last 2 minutes, what's your message to South Africans? Now, I mean, you're living abroad. Things have changed around the world. You're in touch with international waters all the time because of where you live and what you do. What's your message to South Africans as we try to see the tail end, hopefully, of COVID-19?
Okay, so from a South African perspective, looking into South Africa, I mean, when we sit in international perspective and we look at South Africa, there's always a shadow that's casted over South Africa as far as the commonality of corruption and so on. But for once in our lives, when we look at South Africa as an international community, South Africa is one of those countries that have excelled to its peak of international standards as far as treating and containing this pandemic. And our people in South Africa have to come to realize that the world is admiring South Africa at the moment. But our people and ourselves sitting here in South Africa, we don't appreciate that one bit. Because I live in a beach town at the moment, here in Cape Town. And every morning and every day, since the level has dropped to stage 4, people have gone about normal life in groups on the promenade on this side and walking around as if there's no pandemic, as if there's no risks or anything attached to it. That must stop. You know, our government has done a sterling job in putting together a plan to contain this virus and to eventually eliminate the risk for us as people. They've sacrificed a tremendous amount of putting money in people's pockets for absolutely nothing, for the mere reason that they know our people are suffering at the moment. It's our time to pay our 5 cents back to community and stay at home to contain this virus. We are stronger together, but as long as we are apart. So my message to South Africa is, let's stay apart and stay at home. Let's contain this virus.
Abdu-Raof, and so thank you for that, and thank you for coming onto the show. Now, I want to throw those words back at him, and that is, he needs to stay at home, because he's not sure whether he's at home or not. He's the only South African that I know that is stuck and stranded in his own country. Until next time, goodbye.